to The Lead, everybody. Brooke, Gabe, Cam here. Guys, let's take it out to Texas because the winter meetings are going on, and our very own Chuck Garfien joins us now from the winter meetings. Chuck, great to see you. How are they going?
They're going good. And by the way, I just realized I got this new mic flag, CHSN, Chicago Sports Network. It's very nice, very Chicago. I'm just realizing that. And yeah, we've got a great backdrop. Jeff Corbett's our photographer, put this together. He set up all the lights at the hotel. No, he didn't. He just turned on the camera and the light, and we got all this. So anyway, things are good here at the winter meetings. We're waiting for some wheeling and dealing to go on. Big names like Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert Jr., you never know. But so far, just a lot of talks and rumors and nothing yet.
All right, Chuck, speaking of Garrett Crochet, I mean, a number of teams are after his services. So what's the latest that you're hearing on the White Sox starting pitcher for now?
Yeah, so I heard a big number when I got here about how many teams have expressed interest in Crochet, not necessarily here, but throughout the offseason, and that number was 12. 12 teams at least contacting the White Sox. There are different levels of contacting them. All the talks with every team has been at the most preliminary, just exchanging ideas, maybe a player or two in terms of theoretical deals, but very early on in the subject of trading Garrett Crochet. We did see Max Fried go off the board here just a short time ago. 8 years, $218 million with the New York Yankees. That's a lefty pitcher. I had been hearing Yankees, Mets definitely involved in talks with the White Sox, but then this signing happened. Will the Yankees still be interested in Crochet? We'll see. $218 million. $27 million a year for Fried. You can get Crochet for $2.9 million roughly in 2025. It's going to cost you prospects. The Mets, watch for them. They've got a lot of position players who the White Sox might like. Red Sox and Orioles on paper seem like a great fit, but at last check, what I had heard was kind of crickets with those two teams trying to pursue Garrett Crochet. Things can change very quickly, so we'll see. But that is kind of the latest with Crochet for now.
Yeah, got to be exciting at the possibility of getting a lot of prospects in return there for a guy like Garrett Crochet. Chuck, I heard a lot of teams are interested in Luis Robert Jr. as well. What can you tell us about the rumblings surrounding him at the winter meetings?
All right, I'm glad you brought that up because Brooke was there last week when I gave you the breaking news.
You did.
That there's no way that he's going to be traded. There is no way Luis Robert Jr. is going to be traded because his value is at its lowest. Who's going to want him? And then literally I get here. I'm here for like an hour, and I'm talking to someone who knows some things. And he's like, there might be some interest in Luis Robert Jr. So, and then I did a little more reporting, and there's about 6 teams that might be interested in Luis Robert Jr. But okay, there is interest, and then there's just this kind of like, well, what could the White Sox get for Robert Jr. considering the year that he had? Now he's a premium, top of the market center fielder defensively, but he's coming off a terrible year offensively. So what's going to happen? What do you do if you're Chris Getz? Do you try to trade him now with his market where it is right now, and maybe because there aren't a lot of center fielders out there available, his market goes up a little bit? Or do you take the risk of, well, if it is a risk, take him into the season? He could have a better first half, and then you're going to get more for him. Or does he have another bad year? Does he struggle with his health? So I'm very glad that I work for CHSN as a sportscaster, and I'm not a general manager because I don't know what I would do with Luis Robert Jr. right now. I would hope and pray that some team comes in and says, we want him. What do you want for Luis Robert Jr.? But I have a feeling that's not going to happen.
Well, Chuck, if he does play to his full potential in his 2023 level, you know, they would have a pretty solid outfield. Him at center, you got Austin Slater, and then you got Mike Tauchman, who they just signed here today. What can the White Sox expect from him?
OBP, plate discipline, walks. This White Sox team needs that in the biggest way. And I've got the number right here. I think it was 47 walks. Yeah, in 350 plate appearances last season with the Cubs, Tauchman had 47 walks. That would have led the White Sox team with basically half or two-thirds of the at-bats compared to the guys who played on a regular basis. So he is a guy who can play all three outfield positions. He mainly played right field with the Cubs, so he could be a platoon with Austin Slater in right field. That is a possibility. Dominic Fletcher was given the opportunity to be the right fielder last season, but he did struggle offensively, and Chris Getz spoke about how he needs to improve. But Tauchman, a local guy from Palatine, played college ball at Bradley, and let's be honest, where are the White Sox right now? They need some veteran leadership. They need some guys who you can rely on, give plate discipline to this offense. And he would be potentially a candidate who they would flip at the deadline. I'm jumping way ahead here, but that's kind of the formula that we're working here with the White Sox. Yeah, they need to get some starting pitching, some innings, some veteran help, and maybe guys that could be flipped at the deadline for more prospects.
And to go off of what you were saying, just his discipline at the plate, he also has his experience leading off. And Chuck, we talked about this. They're looking for a solid guy in that starting lineup. And so he has experience, hit 297 and 116 plate appearances with the Cubs last season.
Yeah.
So, he knows what to do at the plate. And, he could be a solid
It was during a crucial stretch for the Cubs, too.
Yeah.
And they had some guys down that Tauchman stepped up for them, for sure.
Definitely at a critical time. So you're looking for that production to transfer over on the White Sox. Well, let's go to the bench. And speaking of new bench coach Walter McKibben, what are your impressions of Coach McKibben when it comes to what he has right now? Because what I'm hearing is that he gives it to you, Chuck, straight, no chaser. So what are your impressions of Walker McKibben?
So he was described to me by someone in the White Sox front office. He's like Jason Bourne. He is like a mental assassin, right? And he goes under the hood and finds all sorts of ways. A lot of baseball games are won in the margins, and the White Sox really need a lot of help with defensive position. He was really good with that in Milwaukee as their run prevention coordinator. Like, that was literally his title, but it also involved working with the catchers and the pitchers. And I think that kind of stuff is really going to help this White Sox team. And he started with the Brewers. He actually grew up a Cubs fan. He went to New Trier High School, and I like that he just basically came out and said, "Yeah, I grew up a Cubs fan." But everybody who's watching this, Rick Hahn was a Cubs fan. I mean, it just kind of happens. He grew up with that team, but then he became a Brewers coach, and now he's a White Sox coach. And so he's going to provide a lot of internal knowledge that's going to help the White Sox win games in the margins. And he's going to help out Will Venable for sure. He said he took this job because of Will Venable, and he also said he took this job because he likes doing hard things. People who are signing up with the White Sox, and we're seeing guys signing up, not so many players, but certainly from a coaching staff front office thing, guys get, when they sit down with Chris Getz, they get what the White Sox are doing. They get the challenge that's ahead, and he says, look, I'm in for a big challenge, and he was really excited about this opportunity. So Walker McKibben, young guy, I think he's like 34, 35. A lot of these coaches on this White Sox team are really young, youngest I've ever seen. And so Walker McKibben coming from the Brewers, a team that, is always knocking on the door for the playoffs, and he wants to be a part of this rebuild and make a big difference starting from scratch with this team.
Yeah, it seems like they're all aligned, the guys that he's bringing in. Chuck brings up a really good point there. And, Chuck, another great moment at the Winter Meetings, White Sox great Dick Allen, he was elected to the Hall of Fame. You were there with his family. Just what was that moment like, experiencing that with them during the announcement?
Yeah, I mean, this was like decades in the making, right? So, Dick Allen won an MVP with the White Sox in 1972. Before that, he spent many years with the Phillies. But his career really took off with the White Sox. He arguably, we hear this from people who were a part of the franchise back then. He arguably saved the White Sox franchise. There was all this scuttlebutt about maybe them leaving town around that time, and he put that team on his back in 1972. And back then, for like the 70s and the 80s and 90s, you needed to have like 500 home runs to make it to the Hall of Fame. Well, things have changed, and so to be in that room, Dick Allen unfortunately passed away in 2020, and there was his son and his grandson, and people have been really close with the family, and they had been in this vote 2 times before. It's the classic era baseball committee vote, and it's a bunch of Hall of Famers and people who've been in the game for a long time who vote. You need 12 of 16 votes to get in, and he came up 1 vote shy the previous 2 times. Well, this year he had 1 extra vote, so he's going to be going to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And for all the diehard White Sox fans, you know that when he came to the plate, there was Nancy Faust, longtime organist for the White Sox. She basically, no, she shouldn't, I wouldn't say basically. She, in fact, invented the walk-up song with Dick Allen in 1972 playing the song Jesus Christ Superstar. For all you youngsters out there, take a listen to it. It's a great song. And she's going to be in Cooperstown playing that song on the organ when they induct Dick Allen. So it's a great thing for the White Sox.
Another name that should be there in Cooperstown.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Chuck, great stuff as always. It's a pleasure talking to you. Keep killing it out there at the winter meetings.